Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is this is my August wrap up and my September pile of possibilities. It's not going to be, September is not going to be too new. There's not going to be very many books that I'm going to add to the list because August I read a good amount of books, but not as many as I wanted to because it was the beginning of school. Our kids went to school pretty early on in I think the second week of August now. It seems like it's been a lifetime. So I haven't had the energy to do some of the harder reading that I really want to kind of finish out. I want to finish Song of Solomon, and then that will finish my Toni Morrison project. My other goal is to finish Reimagining Incarceration. That book I've had to keep putting down because it scares me when it talks about how much we incarcerate children and the things that happen once these people are behind bars. And it's like as much as I love thrillers and horror, this is a true horror story for me, and I literally have to take breaks from it. And then again, I'll read Toni Morrison's book, and it not only is it heady and thick and heavy, I'm struck with a lot of internal stuff. I mean, we as Black people not only have to deal with outside forces, but we also have taken in a lot of those forces into ourselves. So we also will inflict, am I saying the right word? We will also we will put on someone else. We will inflict, I think, white supremacy, our own internalized white supremacy on someone else via respectability politics, colorism, classism. So that kind of stuff kind of shows up sometimes in literary Black books, and it's difficult. And so I go slow because I want to soak in the language, but I also go slow because it's heavy. So those are two books I want to finish in September. I definitely want to go ahead and get to the Parable of the Sower, although again that's going to be a heavy book. I want to go ahead and do The Taking of Jake Livingston, so that was another book I want to go ahead and read. And I also want to finish the two last books in the Dead Djinn series from P. Djeli Clark. I read the two short stories, and then there's a little bit of a longer short story. This one's considered a novella, The Haunting of Tram 015, and then the final book that's actually a novel. Now, the books that I did end up reading, again, because it's a pile of possibilities, some of these books were on my list and some of them weren't. I did end up reading Summer of Night. I finished that. I had started that before August, and I finished it. And the book kind of plays it definitely is, the author is definitely trying to be Stephen King. And the entire time I kept thinking, I see what you're trying to do there, and I cannot put into words what it is that's missing. It's just missing that Stephen Kingness for me. Summer of Night is about these boys who, they're little kids and hanging out. They all have these, he tries to describe the town the same way it's describing it, where there's this kind of neglectful malevolence going on in the town. There's supposed to be all these colorful characters, lots of people who are alcoholics and mean older teens and bullies, and just everybody kind of, there's lots of these side characters and things like that. And then the dead start kind of coming back, but they're not quite zombies, there's something else, and it's left to the boys to really try to figure out how to defeat them. It basically is it. It's like Stephen King, and it's like a lesser Stephen King and a lesser Steven Spielberg kind of. And because I kept thinking the whole time, oh my God, he's trying to be like Stephen King, I couldn't quite get into it. And then I was annoyed at some things that Stephen King does, but I don't get annoyed at Stephen King, but I got annoyed at this character. So there's this one point in the book where the kids they need to get this older kid or like young adult. I think he was anywhere from like 17 to 20, and they all got some money together because they knew a taxi or a bus wouldn't take a bunch of kids to this like far away place. They're in Illinois, and they're like in the country bumpkin town and want to get to Peoria, and so they got this kid to take them. They put their money together and got him to take them. And this kid, like the way he talks, he's just cursing constantly and just mean for no reason. And there's always a bully and a weirdo in Stephen King's books, but this one just grated on my nerves. And then there was another scene where, so there's a side plot going on about this. There was like in the 30s, so this story takes place in the 60s or so, and in the 30s there's a place where everybody knows of that they hung this black man, and this alcoholic, I was telling the story to one of the main characters who was trying to figure out how to stop this force that's in the town. He's talking about what happened with the lynching of this character. And he won't just say the black guy or the Negro or whatever. He says the N-word within the course of me listening to this book. Probably, I don't know, it felt longer than 20 minutes, but let's say 15 minutes, 10 minutes of this guy telling the story. It felt like he said the N-word 150 times. And it was just like, that was not necessary. That was traumatic. Like, even when there's a racist character in Stephen King book, I don't remember them saying in quick succession the N-word in like basically a chapter or a long piece of dialogue or a story. This person saying that over and over and over again, and like also kind of wrapped around it telling this story, this horrible story of this man being lynched for something that I think, from what I understand, people knew he didn't do. And so it was just not cool. And by the time I got there, I kind of wanted to see how the book ended because I had put so much into it. But now that I'm a couple days away from it, I don't even remember, and it was a waste. And I don't think I'll be reading anything from Dan Simmons anymore because, like I said, I think he's just a poor man's Stephen King. So that was something that I finished since my last wrap up. So the next book I finished was And Then There Were None, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. I thought this would suffer from like there's two movies that came out that failed, even though, and they felt old and they felt derivative even though they were the originals. And it was John Carter and the Red Moon one, and then it was a Disney one from years ago, and then Valeria that came out a couple years ago. And those movies came from properties that predated Superman and Star Wars and the like, but they seemed old because we've already gotten so much Superman and Star Wars. And so I thought that kind of thing would happen with Agatha Christie books because I've read so many. That's one of my most read genres, is thrillers and mysteries and suspense. So I thought, well, it's, even though she is one of the originals, it's going to seem derivative to me, but it didn't. I really enjoyed it. It was really good, and very few things brought to mind that this was not a modern story. I can't even think of them, like maybe something incongruous, like, I don't know, some old way of doing something, but for the most part, it focused so much on the characters and the murder and the mystery that you didn't get taken out of the story because of something like somebody churning butter in a, maybe something weird like that. I really enjoyed the story, and I can't wait to find another Agatha Christie like this. And again, I did read The People Could Fly. That's the children's book with the slave women, with the slaves just walking off that plantation and flying away. The Soulmate Equation I finished by Christina Lauren. It was okay. I compared to the John Mars book, like I said, that I would compare it. I was interested in comparing it with The One by John Mars, because both of them had the idea of DNA matching for your soulmate. But John Mars was a much more scientific and dark take on the story, and this was a contemporary romance with some science thrown in, and not much science. And it was okay. It was good. Like, I'm not a... I enjoy a romance. I enjoy a contemporary romance, but I most definitely enjoy more paranormal things and speculative things thrown in. I love romance. I'm not against it at all, but I like there to be something else going on. And so for it just to be regular people, and the light speculativeness of the DNA matching wasn't quite enough, because it wasn't front and center. It was at the beginning, and then it came up at the end as the third act kind of necessary conflict that they had. But other than that, it was just the couple getting together in a normal way, getting to know each other and things like that. And you know, she had a daughter and stuff like that. So for me, romances that get 4 and 5s are funny, snarky, sexy, like really sexy. There was not a lot. I don't think there was any spice in this story. Spicy and something scientific, witchy, or paranormal, or something like that. So that's the only reason why Soulmate Equation by Christina only got about a 3 from me. I did read Sweet Tea and Sympathy, which was a contemporary book by my favorite romance author, who does the kind of paranormal, snarky, hot kind of books that I like. And again, even with it being Molly Harper, my favorite of those types of writers, because it was contemporary and there was nothing going on, but it had the family, the snark, the funniness, and it had a little bit of smut and spice, I think is what I was trying to get out of my head. Spice. So if Soulmate Equation got a 3, Sweet Tea and Sympathy got a 3.5, and that half is really for that voice, that again, that same voice that you get to know from like Stephen King or any other favorite author you have. Same thing with this. I love Molly Harper's snarky, down home way, humorous way of writing, and so that elevated this contemporary romance to a 3.5 for me. Now the next book that I completed, me and my husband read this, and I want to do a special review of this book with him, called Kill Creek. I want to do this thing called Bay, Books and Beverages, so that we can drink and talk about the book. Bay is just, so Urban Dictionary says it's before all others, or before all, I can't remember, but I don't actually call my husband Bae or anything like that. My best friend calls her husband Bae, and so I don't know if I don't know if white people do it, but just Bae is just a small, Bae is just like a petite, lovey form of babe, but the only reason why I use it, like I said, even though I don't say babe, I use it because it goes with books and beverages. And so I do want to do a full review with him on that. But again, it has been crazy around here because of school and going back to school after being homeschooled, going to school during the pandemic, making sure I have enough masks on top of their uniforms. I keep going back to it. Make sure they get to bed on time. It's a lot. So I will, at some point, my husband and I will sit down and record our first episode of Bay, Books and Beverages, and talk about Kill Creek. It was a good book though. So They Never Learn is a thriller about a woman who is a serial killer. She's a professor, English professor. And what is it about English professors and Greek mythology, people who like to kill people and stuff? But she is a English professor who kills bad men. And then there's a story about a shy freshman who kind of falls. She doesn't realize that she's falling in love with her more outgoing friend, and then when something bad happens to her friend, she seeks to get revenge on the person who hurts her friend. And then there's this twist that I can see coming miles away, and when I can see a twist coming, because I don't pay attention that much, like I I'm not that kind of person. I can't solve puzzles really well and things like that. So if I see a twist coming, you're gonna see a twist coming if you're a puzzle solver, or if you know what I mean. So it's a big deal if I can see a twist coming. This is what I'm always trying to say to people. And so you see the twist coming. It wasn't very immersive. It reminded me too much of The Maidens, which I hated. It was not as bad as The Maidens, I'm not gonna say that, but it just didn't do it for me. It wasn't enjoyable. Mysteries need to be enjoyable, or twisty, angsty, atmospheric, something to hook you, and this didn't do it for me. So that's what I finished since the last wrap up, and I already told you what I'm going to kind of be doing. There's nothing really new that I'm going to be trying to read. I might get to some of these. I might get to you know what, I'm not even gonna say might. I'm very excited about the Shari Lapena book that I got in from Book of the Month. So this is the only extra book that I might add to this was this month's Book of the Month pick, and I have never read Shari Lapena. I hear about her all the time, and that's it. That is my wrap up for August. And I forgot to add that I have 4 NetGalley arcs that I want to get through so that I can get my percentage up. So you see them here on the screen: The Violin Conspiracy, Wildseed Witch, The Death of Jane Lawrence, and Kingdom Secrets. So I'm hoping I can get through these this month. My pile of possibilities for September. So sorry it was chaotic. So sorry it was kind of out of order and all over the place. Again, I am going to blame the pandemic, getting kids back in school, one of my kids starting middle grade, fighting the school district, you know, to accept my stuff from homeschooling. I'm hoping to get back on track with my Tuesday tags and my little whatevers on Thursdays and my wrap-ups on Saturdays. So let's see, is there something, you know what, I'm gonna put, I don't know what to call it, it's the wacky looking emoji. That's gonna be the emoji at the end of this book. I'm gonna put the wacky faced emoji up as the emoji for the end of this video. If you don't have anything to say, you can put that, and that could be your engagement for this video. Otherwise, let me know what your August was like, what your August reading was like. What are your ideas for September? Do you have any books that kind of mirror what I'm doing here? If you're a mama or a daddy who is putting their kids back in school during this panorama, let me know how you're doing, because it's crazy over here. And be easy on yourself, especially during these times. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.